What up? What up? What's up? Big shout out to everybody out there in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to everybody on the back street. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. It's Hot Mike Friday. Woo! What's up, fellas? What is up? Again, big shout out to all my people out there in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. What up? Hold on one second, fellas. Okay. I had to grab my phone. Hold on. So I can get my shout outs out the way. You know, the nice Friday and everything. Couldn't wait to get back here. Let's see here. What's going on? Not going to be a really interesting conversation. You know, I base night. You know, we always talk about the history, and I get kind of like have my different feelings about certain things that people might say because I want to see the best for the breed. You know, I want to actually see the best for the dog, man. Regardless of what you're doing, how you're doing, when you're into these dogs, you got, and we always make this clear. It's more. It's not like it becomes a habit, it becomes a lifestyle. Understanding how far that lifestyle goes depends on the person and their relationship to the community. Because they know I used to add, you know, sometimes now I've been married over 20 plus years, you know, and I watched my brother go through two marriages and a whole lot of breakups because of his relationships with the dogs. But it never changed, you know, with all that happening. Even for me, I was almost like he was more into the dogs than he was kind of his relationship at home. Like even when he like second time he got married, he went and we got the farm. Hadn't been here in Florida no more than maybe I think a year, maybe a year and a half, because the dogs that we bought in, and we didn't have but three dogs, and one of the dogs was no, actually four dogs because I had Hans, a Rottweiler. Mo had Bo, have that the big German Shepherd, and two other pit bulls. And on his trip, even to Florida, they tried to confiscate his dogs. So they was basically following them from Ohio to Florida. And you know how they do. They jump in. The first thing they wanted to do was confiscate the dogs, you know, because we was uprooting ourselves out of Ohio. So yeah, they kind of like followed us to Florida. But we wound up getting everything back, and that's where the Florida yard kind of like started because he had already did the breedings and had all the dogs in certain places, and then the next move was to be able to come here and set up a yard, a big enough yard that where we could, you know, go make, you know, like our Custer's last stand. Now, we always told y'all our kennel actually consisted of really three main people. And this before we had the proteges, and we were still, you know, little Ben, he had just moved to Virginia, and he had some of the dogs there in Virginia with him. And he was raising them. So by the time, you know, them dogs became of age, and our other kennel partner, Um, had the other dogs up in like Lackawanna, New York. Mo against his wife's. Um, she didn't want to move out on the farm. Basically, he's pressing for the farm. She's pressing to stay in the city. Mo, damn that, we're gonna do the farm. Now he's got her out here, fresh here in Florida, away from the city life and doing this country life, and that's kind of hard on a woman that's pregnant at the time and trying to pull him away from the bulldog situation. But because of the farm, she still rolled out with him. But again, remember I told you how the farm went. Because at this point, no puppy ever, out of all them breedings and the dogs that came here, nothing was ever sold. He kept every litter. We put all them dogs on the chain. Kennel partner came down, and that's how the yard was created. Every dog had their own tree, every water line in between. It was just a beautiful yard because we couldn't really pull that off in Ohio. Even then in Ohio, we didn't have the yard that we had when we came to Florida because the restrictions. We could only build so many pens in the back. And then when we had them, before we got the pens on Fest, we had, I think, like 20 plus, about 25 dogs, maybe even 30. But it was the cold. Kind of like, we lost, who was that we lost? I can't remember. It was a couple. No, it was only one that was lost that day. And like he said, with all that straw in there, a crybaby. All the straw and everything, all the dogs in the yard, that one died. That kind of was getting to him. And me personally, man, I had the Rottweilers, and I didn't have any dogs over where I was figuring, it was time to leave anyway. So I was the first one to get up and say, hey man, I'm headed south. Don't know where I'm going down, but I'm trying to get below this cold weather. And I was never had been to Tampa before in my life. But I knew somebody who had lived here and they was telling me about certain things. And that person wound up dying. And I always said, that I would make it, but I didn't make it before, she died. So I said, because of my conversation with her, and I'm one of them guy people, because, she died after our conversation. I never got a chance to meet her there. I knew her from Ohio. She was married to one of my homeboys, but they got divorced, and me and her, we all grew up together. And she got real sick. And then when she passed, I was already headed this way, and that's how I wound up here. Now, Mo, at the time, he was just getting in the relationship and all that other stuff. And so when he finally decided to come, and I think I was here maybe 9 months before he showed up. But the reason I say that, because all this is driven not just because of the dogs, but because a change in life. Sometimes, we all end up having this change in life and you just want to get up and go somewhere different. And then once you're there, it's not like home, it's something actually new. And before you know it, you got to get in the swing of things. New place, new people, and I think his situation with his brand new wife, kind of complicated things a little bit simply because she was never happy on that farm. But his love for the dogs and what it had grew to, we never gotten, me, KP, we never gotten to that personal part of the relationship. But then that's the purpose, my wife and her, they was, they hung out together. So they had each other, both of them away from home. This is all they had down here. And then we were working at the time doing a contract outside of Tampa. I think I was in actually in Orlando. So I basically was living away from home and then coming back on the weekends. Then when Mo got here, I took him with me. And I met both me and him on job sites doing contract work, and we're away from home. And we leaving them to put everything together, and the whole farm and the way they did things. It took a family situation just to even get through that much. But the purpose of that, y'all, if you think about all the work, you know, that was put into creating that yard, considering we going from Ohio, I mean, we went from North Carolina with just a couple dogs that wind up in Ohio with this many. Blood Bruiser, no, not Bruiser, Blood BA Solo. Blood BA in judo, 4 dogs. That's how you went into Ohio. That's that move from North Carolina to Ohio. And you go from that, from 4 dogs to 25, 30 dogs. Then you go leave from that and move to Florida and go from them 30 dogs down to 2 dogs up to 80 dogs. All that over I call it a short period of time, because a lot of the things that happened when we got here, you know, and you in a new place in the dog community, you in like, it's not like being in Ohio and you got the Cleveland, the Columbus, and all them other surrounding areas, you know, and everybody, you know, that's a very big circle. But now you're stepping into a new community of dog men with these dogs, and they're not really, you know, you got to prove yourself. So outside of just having a yard, you know, you in a place that you got bulldogs and you're trying to be a part of the community. So you go through a lot of stuff then. Remember, we went through a lot once that yard was created. But the thing about the dogs that we had were all good dogs. There was a lot of time spent in working, feeding, raising, breeding, whelping houses, whelping puppies, you know, taking puppies and individually feeding them through all the craziness. See, when I sit back and I hear people like, sometimes when I heard people trying to hate on us, you know, I used to, you know, I used to let that get to me, because I always felt like when a person hates on another person, then you would think there has to be a reason why they're hating. And sometimes I'd be forgetting that everybody wasn't in the game as serious as we were. Because if you was, it would be hard for a person to hate, regardless of what the situation is. Because again, a good bulldog is only as good as the person who has the dogs. That's how we was brought up around, not just in the bulldog game, but even down to our guard training dogs. You know, if the guard training dog wasn't shit, then regardless of how good of trainers we was, it wasn't going to change our opinion about this dog is not going to make it. So when you know how to grade and you're doing things like that, and then think about the time that you put in the ones to get you have to raise to where you have to make that hard decision of this one here is not going to make it. You're basically saying that was a waste of time, but you accept that and you move on. Well, that's the same thing we do in the bulldog game. Not everything makes it. If every puppy in every litter turned out to be that one, then, you know, this game would be a little bit different, because we know that's not true. We know history has shown us that we've had some bomb ass dogs that had some bomb ass litters. You know, I know Mason had some biomass litters. You know, history will show us it was it wasn't the norm to have, 4 or 5 great dogs out of a litter. It was just hard to do. And for the ones who was able to do it, you had to take your hat off to them. Now I remember, like when we had, I think it was J-Bo's show, and they were talking about dogs over the years. Like going hard dogs. Um, you can still find going hard dogs today. Our proteges and even my son, they had, they kept things pretty tight because, again, this is what they grew up with. This is what they knew. And then when you're working with something and you know how to work it, it's going to show, even 20 years later, because they were able to stick to that game plan, where we couldn't because of our dog issues. But again, not just what they did. You got to think about the people that was outside of them and the things that they were doing. That's what carried the name. It wasn't just about the Mayday situation for us, because for us, we never knew what this situation was going to be, because Mayday was just something that we wound up running up on. Mo told you the story. Started out going to do one thing, ran into my boys, and then all of a sudden we see that didn't work. We could do this, and then we're just going to wind up doing this. So Victor and them, they didn't really have a future. They never looked into the future part of it. And when we made something out of it, I go way back and be thinking, okay, when people hate on somebody, and you don't realize what it takes to make something that's worth talking about. See, my thing was always, if you grew up around people who just had nothing but success, regardless of if it was car racing, wrestling in school, playing football, you see the most dedicated ones to whatever they was doing were always the ones who were succeeding. So when we look at our career in these dogs, and you looked at how we started from Sheriff Powell and the people he turned you on to, well, hell, even then we can't talk about him back then because we didn't know him then. But then when I sit down, I read about, James Edwards and Kimsey Woods, and I hear how other people talk, they just, maybe y'all, I felt like, because y'all didn't know the people. Y'all didn't know that. Y'all hear stories, but the stories don't fit the person that you meet. And then it goes back to that one conversation. Now that you know them and you see the amount of work that they have put in, regardless of what people might think or say, when you know these people, that's where you kind of get that drive from, as far as people talk about these people because of their animals. So you're going to automatically tend to do what they're doing. So believe me, that's where that comes from. And then just sit and start in pit bulls. That's how we wound up with Apollo and all them badass Doman pinchers. Somebody else had already been doing it, gave us the opportunity to get the dog from them. That dog happened to be the great Apollo. And Apollo, out of what that man had done, we were able to take that one dog, Apollo, and recreate things that he was trying to do, because he could breed them because it was his bloodline, but he didn't have that ability to train like we did. I mean, he had some big Doman pinchers that I swear to God looked like Great Danes, and they were vicious. I mean, stone cold vicious, but only one who could handle them was him, and he would basically tell you he was not a trainer. You know, and even Mo walked up. What was his? Was it Zeus, the Apollo's dad, the one that you went up taking for a walk when he didn't think you could walk it? Dog is that Doman Prince's name was Duke, and he was the biggest Doman Prince I ever seen in my life. He had a wide ass chest, and he was mean as hell. But Mo, he handled that dog. He went and actually walked that dog down the street, even after the dog tried to bite him about 4 or 5 times. But he was just showing the dude, I can bring this dog under control. And he did. And that's how Mo wound up with Apollo. Apollo was the beginning of something different because we had the blood and we had the right male. And damn, everything that he threw was just as mean as he was and just as smart. And the man, he basically opened that gateway of all them great Doman pinchers that we had back in the day. We had every single color. Every single color. All at one time. Behind his relationship with this guy. Bulldog the same way. Had a great relationship with James, Kenzie, Powell, Atlas, Mr. Triplet. I mean, these are all the guys in the area, but North Carolina. So when you talk about those guys, you know, these guys, you know, you still read about them in the record books. Harry Hargrove, Tony Wade. I mean, you know, that's the elite. And I know Fat Bill was down there at the time. I know Tom Garner was there about that time. Even though we didn't ever like run into them, but we was dealing with Tony Wade, and at the time, you know, Tom Ratliff was down there. Met him down that way. So when you're looking at these people, and then when I read about them in history books, you know, and how people have certain conversations with them, I just don't know if y'all really knew how much into these dogs that these people really were. I mean, it's not. It's a little bit different when you talking dog compared to you being in the room of what I call greatness. It's just a different type of conversation, a different type of attitude, because you know they doing all the talking, but then they have a lot to talk about. And if you listen and you appreciate what you know about them, their history, their amount of work, you can't help but respect that. And for us, it was more like wanting to be like that. And and never ask them about the sacrifices. Never got into that until you start living it. You know, this Bulldog game comes with levels, y'all. The more time you spend, the more time you learn. At some point, you have a set of goal. You know, remember, we always talk about purpose. And once you find that purpose, you try to get to the highest level of that purpose. All of that leads you to when you finally, how do you know when you get there? Okay, I see guys who's doing all of the breedings, and there's so many different versions of why people breed the way they do. Okay, I told you nobody's more harder on a breeding program and trying to create something than Mo and our KP. I always be careful of the table. I always tell y'all that because you got to know them to understand what that means. You got to be in the conversation to be a part of that to understand that. And I don't know how many of you guys actually work with somebody or do the things that y'all do, but I'm just gonna tell you from our standpoint because we do, you know, our kennel partner been around us. It's family basically. He is our family, but he had a different mindset because he was trying to create, and we were trying to play. So the combination worked hand in hand because not only did it make him a better breeder, it also gave us better dogs to play with. But my point to this conversation is the amount of work that you put in has to come to a point to where you yourself have to be able to appreciate that work. When I say appreciate the work, okay, dog's been born, okay, breeding happened, they made it together, puppies on the ground, now we got to raise the puppies. Raising the puppies, got to, school them and get out there and put all that work. Then that time comes. Boom, work. Now you got to, put in the work. Now it's time to perform. There's no greater joy and appreciation for your work, not the people around you, but to yourself, when you set out there, put in that time, put in that work, and become, for that one day, successful. You got a chance to actually do it for the first time, and it works. Now, for us, we told y'all, there was a point to where we really didn't know what we were doing. And we did have great dogs. So that feeling of winning back then was totally different than when we knew what we was doing and found ourselves winning, but it was a different type of win. Because it's at that point you know what you're doing. That point, you have discussed everything, you have planned everything, and now it's out there, and it's now your opportunity to see, put it to work, and you did it. When you're able to do that and then continuously do it at on a basis that here's the plan, and you will not accept anything less than that, and it works out for you. It takes me back to just not the first time we've seen this. They don't tell you this part of the story when you being mentored. They always don't. They always tell you what you need, but they don't give you the dire details, the little crazy shit that you run into when a puppy gets sick or the mama is having problems trying to deliver, and all the crazy things that I done seen and we done been through dealing with these dogs. But all it did was just make us better at what we were doing. And once you do it, you know how you got beyond it. And that, to me, that's what made our mentors, stick out. Because they would always be there when you needed them, when you run up on something that you never dealt with before. Now, you did that over years. You kind of been able to go through all the things. Like I hear people get out there, hey, my dog got spots on him, or my dog got babesia, or my dog's blood count ain't right. And, and I watch people always call Mo about, hey, this is what's going on. And Mo, he talks to him, look at the gums, and when's the last time? See, Mo goes through that. But I remember watching Mo be them people who was calling, the fellas, hey, this is what's happening, and they tell him what to do. See, if you just look at as I'm just putting like this, fellas. when I say there's levels to this, it really is because you don't, how do you, where do you find your competitive edge? Nobody sets that level for you. Only you set that. It is your ambition, your wanting to achieve something, but just based on the work that you put in. Like breeders, everybody wanted to be able to, if you want to ever be a breeder, you can breed all the shit you want. But back in our time, you wasn't really considered a breeder unless there was a reason why we would be looking at you as a breeder. Because anybody can back two dogs up to each other. And you think about having to raise them, and then you got that whole litter, and then ain't nothing worth shit. That's a spoiled breed. But not everybody's gonna, not everybody who try to play breeder, they're not going to accept that as a loss. They either put it on the person who got the dog, or anything but them. And not saying that it's due to the lack of knowledge. I think some people get into this because they see other people doing it and they think it's easy, because it is easy to back two dogs up to each other. But in the end, the results are only going to come out when the purpose has to be satisfied. That's going to give the determination whether you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, as far as creating something worthy to talk about, or you just, pushing puppies. In the early days, I remember Victor wasn't pushing puppies. You think about all those champions that Victor had, and I don't remember out of them breedings, I might be wrong, but Victor didn't make all them dogs champions. He wasn't the one that made Luke Kane, Barracuda a champion. He didn't make none of them. But think about, all the ones was out there to the point where Victor had to call Mo, because they were the people that did have the dogs. They wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. The Victor could reach out and have somebody on hand to, hey, I need you to talk to you guys and tell them that nobody's going to get anything until they start doing this. See, for me, that was something big, because there's a relationship there that the man knew that he could reach out and have somebody that he could talk to. And you would think that of all the people out there with them dogs, that, he could call one and know that Mo was going to take care of it for him. Why? Because of the relationship. We know Angel already. We know him. He know we've been over there messing with his rivals, Stone City. So there's a lot of things that he knew, but then he also knew, we knew Deep South. We knew a whole lot of other people that had them dogs, and he knew that if I can get anybody to make this work, call Twin. That's a man utilizing the people he knew, and just based on the dog man who had his dogs, I need this shit to work. And I need to get the recognition for this work. Now just think about all the guys who had the dogs. Was everybody really thinking like that? I mean, we really didn't know what we had. We just know they was off of Mayday. But look at all the other dogs that we had that was off great dogs. His really wasn't special compared to, everything else. It was just our first time ever being a part of something that was fresh and new. And then you look back on it now, you didn't have the same appreciation back then as you do with it for it now because of history. You go back and look at it. And I'm always a fan of just seeing, when I see people have to put in work and know what it feels like to be appreciated not just by your peers, you know what I mean? When I say appreciated, I mean by yourself. Because I think that's where it matters most. When you appreciate the work that you've done. And when you have done it, it's hard for you to bash somebody else or talk down on somebody else because you wasn't always where you was. And you never know what that person is going to be in their future. So never really ever got into talking down on dogs. And maybe because of the era we come from, you know, yeah, all dog men talk shit. But again, back in that time period, man, everybody knew that if you really was about anything, we'll be seeing each other in 6 to 8 weeks. That was the norm. And especially when you doing, or you, I mean, some people have one or two dogs, but then you had them guys that just had these massive, major yards, you know, and they're actually selling dogs to people. And they're waiting. The breeders, they waiting to see what comes out when the smoke clear. Because remember, them dogs in other people's hands. They're not in their hands. They're in other people's hands. So that means their success and their work is always going to be based off of what those other people do. You know what I'm saying? And you don't realize that when you find yourself as being one of them other people. You don't know that until that time comes. And I think the appreciation of your work is when you know that you got something that's actually working for you. Damn what everybody else is doing. Damn what everybody else is saying. See, I think for us, our concentration never was about what other people thought. You know, when Mo and them was doing, you know, going through them arguments and based on how something, you know, what was going to be the next step and shit like that, I never heard them talk about what somebody else thought. They always tried to make sense why they were doing what they were doing. And I think we have to be able to get back to that and that understanding, knowing that people haven't really never changed. You know, hold on, let me see this right here. Let me give this big shout out. I see my man. First of all, let me give my big shout out. Big shout out to my man Bloodthirst, #1, aka Having 360, falling up in the house, showing that major love, coming through with the 2-piece. Appreciate the love, fam. Big shout out to my main man, longtime supporter, the one and only Mr. Dickie Foster is in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to City Boy Kennels in the house. I see you, fam. My one and only, my brother Eli Monster in the house. What up, fam? Bite down and shake that like button. The one and only Double M Desbo in the house. What up, fam? Yo, representing the D, the Mad Doctor in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my man, Mr. John Dembry in the house. What up, fam? Let's see who else I got here. RBG Lone Wolf in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my man, Mr. William McNeil, showing the love. What up, fam? LaQuentin in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Cool Bean, coming through with the showing the love with the 20-piece. What up, fam? Where you been, Cool Bean? Been missing you, fam. He said, been away, finally catching it live. We appreciate that, fam. Appreciate the love, and we miss you, fam. Big shout out to my man, Chico Nicholas. What up, though? You know, but look, fellas, look, I'm going to show y'all this right quick. Something that I don't know if y'all too familiar with. Old Danny. But I think it's who I think it is. I think it's old Danny Burton. But look, he did a story back in the day. And I think it had a lot to do with when he was in Taiwan. And here, let me just get to it. Here's a man that got around and went out of the country to see how this shit worked. But look here. Check this out, fellas. Did it come up yet? So, this is back from Taiwan. Old Danny. I'm going to just get down here like you said. When you are talking to Danny, you are talking with a serious dog man. Recently back from a trip to Taiwan, Danny described the experience as different. And no wonder. Matches with over 2,000 people present. A downtown location for the matches. Parking help provided by the local police. Open family attendants. A vetted pit side to assist in the care of the dogs. That was quite a contrast to the combat environment of the States. Danny was in Taiwan for 20 days, assisting Johnny Leah in preparing a dog for a match. Leah, according to Danny, was the first person to bring the American Pit Bull Terrier to China. Let's see. That effort began about 10 years ago, and Danny estimates that Leah has shipped over 200 dogs from America to China during that decade. The people treated me real good over there. Danny told the Times they are really into the dogs. They are a little behind, but they are catching up quick. Danny's stay in Taiwan was to have lasted over 40 days, but he left because he didn't want to be involved in getting the Stabber dog prepared for a match. Danny felt Stabber was too old to be matched again and expressed that view to his Chinese hosts. Get down here. Danny's personal involvement in the dogs now spans over 20 years. His most notable involvement came through his close association with the late Earl Tudor. It's an association that lingers with vivid memories and a string of stories. I've been real fortunate to have been with the best, says Danny, and that's Earl Tudor. He could do it all. He was not only a conditioner, he was an all-around dog man. He was a breeder, conditioner, and handler. Asked about the best pit bull dog he had seen, Danny doesn't hesitate. Pit General, Eli Jr., Bully Son, Art. Not the gamest dogs, he clarified, but the best fighting dogs. The only regret expressed in the interview was contained in Danny's observation about the changes he has seen in America. This is supposed to be America, the land of the free. I figure as long as you are not hurting anybody, you should be able to do anything you want to do. I can go out here and shoot everybody, shoot every one of my dogs, and won't spend a day in jail for it. But I place 2 dogs down and go to jail 10 years and a $25,000 fine. I can rob a bank and not even get that much time. One more thing. In my 22 years with the dogs, the only dog I ever really knew that got killed in the pit was shot to death by a Texas Ranger point blank with a .357 Magnum in Tyler, Texas, April Fool's Day, 1978. Now put that in your magazine. See, little stories like that. Now these men, back in the time period that these stories were written, a lot of you guys weren't familiar with, with this type of shit, because for us in 1978, we didn't get into the dogs until the 80s, the early 80s. So meeting the men that we were meeting, not knowing who they were, you learn to appreciate as the time goes on and be able to gather in how lucky our opportunity, like Danny, like you said, Earl Tudor. I mean, imagine Earl Tudor as your mentor. You know, that's like us saying that about McNasty and LaFons and Big Ralph and Mr. T, Mao Mao, Ohio Cass, the Abrahams. Remember, that list get long because when you know these people, I mean, not know because of just stories. You, these people are the reason that you're meeting other people. You might not know who these other people really are, but then that's what the experience is all about. Because now you don't have to worry about hearing the story. You get a chance to hear these things from these people that have that same mentality. Well, no, they have a mentality that you're trying to have. And they talk about the success based on their own experience. And I mean, it's not much you can say when it comes down to Danny. I mean, that history speaks for itself. But it was another part on here. That, one more thing before I let Mo get started is Bully Son. I'm gonna get into this story right quick, and when I'm finished with it, you kind of know where I'm coming from. This story right here is behind the great Bully Son, the cur, the dog that quit. Okay, told by Bobby Smith. Now, I'm not trying to read the whole story because that part, you know, is self-explanatory. We already know how great Bully Son was, and you can just get a chance to understand his match career. The part that I want to get to is this part, the conclusion, right here. At the count of 6, Maurice stepped over the dog and threw in the towel. He then asked Mr. Boudreaux to see if he could get him to go, since Floyd had had a small part of raising Bully Son. The reason Maurice did this, I suppose, was that everyone, including myself, was in shock that this dog had stood the line. Floyd took him, strained his head, shook him, and released him. The results were the same. His head tilted a little to the right, and he stood there. After this, Floyd picked Bully Son up, handed him over the pit to Maurice, and turned and walked off with the dog. I talked to a man a few days ago who lives in Huntsville, Tennessee. Huntsville, Texas, some 4 miles from Jerry Clemens. Clemens, who had owned a Bully Son dame, is a lab technician. He told this man that he took blood from Bully Son that day before the match. He said the blood count was about half of what it should have been, maybe because Maurice had been breeding him. But again, Maurice and I both thought there was no dog that could whip Bully Son. Don Mayfield, who had a fine magazine at the time, put a picture of the pit on the cover of his next issue. The picture taken just before the match showed Rick holding Benny Bob in his corner with Norman Hooton and Robert Kahn looking on. Mr. Mayfield wrote a nice story about this match for that issue. Years later, he wrote another account of the same match. The later account was quite different from the first. To me, it was a shame to see a story written later that downgraded a man who was dead and not able to defend himself. I understand from reliable sources that when Jerry Clemens took his bitch to Floyd Boudreaux to breed her, he intended to breed her to one of Boudreaux's well-known brindles, Booze. However, when he ran upon a solid black dog, he thought he had found just what he needed. So he backed her up to the black dog and made dog history with a litter of pups. The black dog was the old Eli dog. Old Eli. The reason I bring that up because I hear, like, for instance, you look at Bully Son. Okay, everybody, we know the kind of story. We knew Bully Son stood there. But look at all the bully son dogs out there, y'all. And then let's go back to Snooty. Remember, we know James Edward. Now, James, remember, you're hearing it from the man. I'm right there with Atlas Brewer, Kimsey Woods, James Edwards. Now, all of them got their little stories, and then you're wondering, this Snooty dog that they talking about. I mean, what kind of dog is this that done got, but who had done lost twice, got a gravestone, and I told y'all that gravestone followed us through our whole bulldog career. Just a year and a half ago, we seen that gravestone at Tom Garner's house. The same gravestone that we seen way back in 1980 at Atlas Brewer's house. Same gravestones, fellas. You seen all 20 plus years later, sitting outside Bulldog Hill, right there at the gate, that same gravestone. But remember, we seen that gravestone in Tony Wade's hands too. So yeah, that gravestone had been following us. But we still talk about a two-time losing dog. Do we still talk about in today's history? Snooty. And people think, oh, that sounds, I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But think about it. Red Ace quit at a like we never make excuses for what happened that day. You know, one thing, unlike the bully son situation, you know, with the blood count and whatever the excuse, we never try to use that as an excuse. The whole travel thing, we always threw that out of the window. Because when what they did with Bully Son, they walked away with Bully Son. We couldn't walk away with Ace. I knew right then when Mo made that decision that he wasn't walking away with her. That changed him. Because regardless of what I said and how I felt about that day, as brothers, kennel partners, I had to understand where he was coming from. So some people call it the super curve and all that other shit. But again, that's not our issue. Because I gave more credit to the dog that beat her. And really, because that dog that beat her picked up her grand championship. The bad thing about that situation, that dog didn't make it. Look at all the good things that could have happened for Tommy Boy. But then think about, I always looked at it like, if we hadn't did the travel thing the way we did it and handled that whole situation better going into another country, maybe we would have had different results. But when it came down to the bulldog hits, you know, there was a reason why we was over there to go into Tommy Boy. And one thing Red Ace did not do, she did not disappoint us when it came to doing what she was supposed to do off the jump. We had complications simply because she wasn't the same dog we left home with. But as far as what she did is what made us, regardless of what that situation was, the puppies was already on the ground. So you never ever heard us run around calling her a cur or nothing else, because what she did that day is something that happened, but she never made it home. So we had to live with that. Don't take away from what she left us with. You know, Mo always talk about that. Y'all say what y'all want about that goddamn cur. But that would have been, for that moment, if she had been alive, we had just took that and fixed it like we did judo. Because of things we did wrong. We had to go back and fix that. Mo wasn't willing to do that with Red Ace because it was such a pivotal moment for him. And he had to get me to understand that. And he made that decision, but because of who she was to him and our kennel partner, is why so much emphasis went into that litter. Because out of everything, he knew that if that litter had anything like her in there, that he knew that he was going to have something worthy of talking about. He knew it. And he knew there was going to be no room for mistakes because he never forgave himself for that mistake. He always said, Mike, if she had just did what we needed her to do, and that was her first time out, he was going to, that was the goal. The goal was to take her into nothing but champions and grand champions because she was really, really, truly that rough. But because that didn't work out for him, is why he was so intense about everything else that our kennel did from that point. Because it also had a lot to do with our kennel partner too. Because, KP, the way him and Mo was, they discussed that whole situation. And KP was kind of upset that she didn't come home. He didn't understand that. But I can understand his point because him as a breeder, that wasn't the dog's fault. That was your fault. I didn't do that right. But Mo, as the man responsible for that part, he stood by. He meant what he said. I don't take shit home and quit. And he never got away from that. But the fact was, he didn't let what happened that day discourage him. It actually made him more determined to prove himself and to prove that my kennel partner, they did make the right choice. They did do what they thought they was going to do, that they were going to make them pay for it, and they did. Because we have had the ability to create a lot of dogs that went on to be something that became worthy of talking about, that I can truly say that they are still around to this day. Now, you have to appreciate them at some point because there's other men out there who have actually been able to maintain something that they have seen work, that has worked for them, and at some point they have to be recognized for the work. If don't nobody do it for them, we do. I just don't feel it is up to us to tell their story because they have such a great story. It's just maybe they don't want to talk about it, but now I talk about it for them. Because the amount of work that they put in it over the years and the dogs that they can talk about, just like we can talk about what we did, they have just as much to talk about, if not more. But then they can't get around the fact that even in their own story and all the men they have been able to meet, they're always going to go back to GHK because they even have a bigger relationship with our kennel partner, which is still my family. Because even though we got out of it, they still had a relationship and they were able to create better, even more dogs. But if they didn't appreciate the things that they learned, could they have been able to do what they did? I don't think so. Because even now, they are on that level to where when they have conversation, I see them and Mo, go over things, but then, Mo, he would throw rank on their ass. And they respect that. Because they have to remember, there's two other people over there, and they know what they talking about. But just to see them grow into what they did and be able to, I can truly say, yeah, growing hard dogs still exist to this day. not just the ones that we created. Because I feel like anything that I have on my yard is a going hard dog. Anything that came down from KP is a going hard dog, because that's a going hard mindset that's doing it. That's a going hard breeder, regardless whether you want to say his name or not. The thing is, he's still producing the same way that he was producing 20 something plus years ago, where you can't do nothing but appreciate the work, because you don't know the person, but you got to be able to appreciate the dogs. Why? Because the dogs speak for themselves. All you can do is hate on the dog. You can't hate on the person, because that person got more than one dog under his belt. That person got a whole lot of champions and grand champions under their belt. And so it's not a matter of what the other people was thinking or what other people say. The fact is, I can show you a whole bunch of shit, regardless of how you feel about it, or what you say about it. The thing is, not looking for your appreciation. I appreciate the fact that the dogs did what they were supposed to do. And they wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't ever have them in the position to be able to do what they needed to do. That's the appreciation for the work, because the work's going to always speak for itself. That is something that over the years, when we sit here, like he was telling you about the story that Don Mayfield wrote about the Bully Son dog. The first story was, the second story was way outrageous the second time. But the truth was really spoken on the first time the story came out. We know Bully Son just wasn't shit. It wasn't Bully Son ran and leaped over it and ran out the garage, ran out the pit, and all that other shit. No. The man told you exactly how that was handled. Hell, he raised the damn dog. Would he scratch for you, Floyd? No, we won't even scratch for Floyd. So that's the end of that story. But we know Bully Son's still one of the greatest producers of all times. Can't knock that. Snooty, two-time quitter, one of the great producers of all times. I got to give, Red Ace her love, not just because of what other people think. Remember, that's actually the start of everything that happened here in Florida. And believe this, fellas. Remember how I said we started? You already know how we ended. The name and the work speaks for itself, because we made them all believers. Made them all believers, because how do you get people to believe? By believing in your work, and you getting over there saying, you proven me wrong. I ain't got to talk about this shit. Just see me on the other side. There's a whole lot of people that we can honestly say stood across from us that we appreciated the opportunity. Don't knock them. I never felt that we had to knock them, because we was always eager about the opportunity to prove something. And that proof was, we can beat that dog. That's what the whole game was based off of, basically, fellas. I mean, Mo been over the match reports. People just don't breed these dogs just to be breeding them dogs and going through all that bullshit and not get anything in return. That's why, I have much respect for Victor when he picked up the phone and put that pressure on Mo to, hey, you tell them guys. You tell them. And Mo jumped right in there. And if it don't be for that, I don't know what, how that would have turned out. But I know that was a major change in why I think Mayday got the recognition that he was getting. Because at the time that Victor did that interview, there wasn't but two dogs that y'all ever heard him talk about moving forward. And that wasn't but Luke Kane and Brat. Because even though the rest of them was out there, y'all didn't hear about Barracuda and Twisted and all them other ones that were out there but hadn't really got out there. They was just getting started. But Brad and her championship and Luke Kane being the first grand champion off him, that's the only thing that he could speak of, because at that point in time, them the only ones who was doing anything right. And you got to remember, he didn't even mention uh, Barracuda, and before Barracuda's even, I think Barracuda had already run 4 or 5 before he even had his first match recorded. And he was right here with us. Deep South had him. So it's just things like that when you know this shit in history and you hear people talking all that shit, you just kind of be sitting back and thinking, well, because they don't know the story. Because a lot of these dogs we seen before, even down to Mayday, we knew and seen a lot of things. So a lot of things that people say might be, you done heard, you just riding with what you hear. It's a whole big difference when you know. And I'm trying to tell you, when you believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. And I say this because when I be not just saying it, when I say believe, man, I say that based on I know what it takes to say I believe in something. Because I put in the work. I was up cleaning up shit. I was up doing the calling. All the things that was involved in that, and it all boiled down to that moment when you get a chance to see for yourself how much work was involved in that moment when you realize, okay, it is what I thought it was. Now it might be that first time. Remember that it was always about that first time. The win, it wasn't about just the win. Because once you got the win, you never knew what the second and the third was going to look like. When we got off on the missions, we wasn't thinking about, no breeding programs and all that other shit. And maybe that was because we would never consider ourselves as breeders. Because I thought when you bred your own shit, we weren't like Pat Patrick and David Tant, even though David Tant did match, and Ed Crenshaw, they did, but they wasn't doing it on the level and as much as we was doing it. Because we was in that time, period then where they had pretty much, they were the old school. And we was kind of like the new school, the new jacks coming through. And yeah, everything was, early 80s all the way to the early 2000s was a madhouse because everybody had good dogs. Even a lot of them dogs in y'all pedigree, when you can see some of them great dogs in that 5th and 6th generation, of course, it changes because 4 generations have just went totally to shit, and you're going to see why that breeding was done the way it was done in the 5th and the 6th. But if you go back and look at that 5th and the 6th and make that 5th and the 6th and bring it up to what it looked like was winning the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th, and then look back, it don't look nothing like what yours do, because the time period was different. That's why you got to be able to appreciate what that 5th and 6th, and 7th and 8th was doing before it fell in your hands. See, that's one of the things that we took serious based on the Popes, the Cheryl Powells, the James Edwards, the Kim Woods, Abrahams wasn't breeders, y'all. McNasty and them, they wasn't trying to be no damn breeders. There's so many dog men that I know they just wasn't what I would consider breeders. Stone City to me and Hardcore, they were breeders, but they was breeding their own shit. They were creating what they were using. It didn't matter what everybody else around them was doing. They had their mind frame on shit, and they stuck to shit. But it wasn't just about just following them. It was about, if you look back at the amount of work that they was putting in and how long they had been doing it, you'll see they wasn't the first to do a whole lot of shit. They weren't. And Mo is sister, and he proves that all the time when he goes back and talk about Fitzgerald's Goldie and Stabber and Lady Sassy Mead, and because for us those were the things that was making them, him and our kennel partner, when they would have them little arguments and they could point out that type of shit and then follow it and dive out there, and it wasn't just about champions or grand champions. It was about something that had already been proven itself, and they felt more comfortable working from there. And it kind of did work out for us because, some of our papers, they're some badass bred dogs. But if it don't be for us putting them out there and putting them to work, we wouldn't have been shit either. We would just be some other people with some dogs with nice ass papers, and the dogs wasn't shit. See, we wasn't never trying to be them. That's why our calling process, they let other people tell it was hard. Yeah, because we put the best on the best, and whoever survived. That don't mean take nothing away from the one that didn't make the team, because they probably would have made a team anywhere else, but not here. Because we already know the level that we want to be on, and if it can't make it to that level coming off this yard, then we got to take the best, and second best don't make it. It just didn't work no other kind of way. That's why a lot of them dogs that didn't make it got out to be great dogs in other people's hands. Not taking nothing away from the dog, because in other people's hands, they were still able to do great things with the dogs. So it's not like the dog didn't have them in it. The thing was, it didn't fit what we were doing. Not like we didn't know what we was doing. It just didn't fit what we were doing. And things like that happen all the time. All the time. My thing is, I try to encourage people, it's easy to sit back and talk about people. But the slap in the face come when you don't have nothing to talk about when it comes to your amount of work that you can be appreciated for. Like, regardless of what people say about Bully Son, okay, but regardless of what people say about Snooty, the fact is, history has shown us that they might not have been great fighters, okay? They had losses, all right? We know Bully Son stood the corner. I never heard Snooty ever stand in the corner. Snooty just didn't have no talent. That's what I heard about Snooty. Kinsey Wood was right there, and Atlas Brewer was right there, and James Edwards co-signs it. So that's not something that I have to go back and forth with. And Snooty, well, from my understanding, Snooty never stood the line. Both times that Snooty lost, Snooty got picked up. But didn't take away from the greatness of the dog. So those are keen lessons that when you're dealing with these dogs and all the work that you put in it, if you stick to your game plan, regardless of what it is, run walls, treadmills, whatever that is, when you learn to appreciate it, you yourself learn to appreciate your work, it is very hard for anybody to tear you down talking. And I always felt like, we had the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and the LeBron James, but there's so many other basketball players that we can throw in that list to deserve that same appreciation based on their attributes to the game, that it's going to always be a discussion. It's going to always be that controversy. And controversy is good when it comes to things like that because you can't knock Michael Jordan. I mean, he was the best to me to ever do it. I seen Mike in high school and knew it as a baller. Imagine being able to sit there and look at this young man playing high school basketball and then to see the same young man out here, and everybody's buying his tennis shoes. Now, how could I? You could have looked at that man back there and seen what I seen in when he was playing in high school, right down there in Kinston, coming out of Wilson, North Carolina. I seen him play. I told you I seen him play Kinston, Kinston in a state playoff game, and the boy was flying in. I felt that he was going to be about that life, but I also grew up in Ohio, and I watched LeBron. LeBron played with my little brother. Yeah, I have an All-American little brother. Actually, two All-American little brothers. You know, one was All-American football and basketball. So you look at them and be like, okay, you kind of knew that they was gonna do something, but that to that degree, no, you never knew to that degree, but you kind of knew that he was gonna be all right. Just like you kind of think about if Jordan went to college because of his parents. You know the story about that Carolina situation. Remember Charles Shackelford, Jerry Stackhouse, couple guys, Ingram. All these guys are right out of Kinston. So when I talk about these guys, because remember I was around Stackhouse when he was just in high school. I was around Shackelford playing ball right around in his high school days, but he was just a sophomore playing at the gym. So when you know these things and you watch, and then it plays itself out now. Yeah, these guys, when you see it for yourself and you was around it, and we all have them because the NBA and football. There's a lot of people that come from all over the place, and some of you guys possibly personally know some of these guys. I know a lot of guys in my 64 years that have played professional soccer, professional basketball, professional baseball, professional football. I mean, I know them of pretty much all sports, except for tennis. Never knew anybody that really played tennis. And I knew some professional soccer players. It turned out, being here in Florida, I got a chance to meet even when we had the MLS here. The guy that was Diallo. He was right here in Tampa. Knew the guy right out of New York, first time ever being here. We hooked up. He was just a young boy, just fresh new here. And in 2 years, he was the MVP of the MLS. But I seen the amount of work that he was putting in. I was there, got a chance to be on the field and watch a soccer game, and I don't be wondering how the hell is, boy, you must have just ran your whole life, because that's a whole lot of running they be doing. So I learned to appreciate the game of hockey because of him. See, all these little things I can talk about because I personally, hands down, experienced this shit in my life. No cap. People don't understand. There's some things, people cap about. But in my life, I've done so much in life, I don't even need to cap. And I tell y'all, I'm an open book. I am not rich, fellas. By far. Nowhere near it. Because I can tell you the do's and don'ts of it. See, I have 7 children that I had to raise and put time and money in, and I wasn't like a lot of guys who were stuck to doing that by punching somebody else's clock. I am not that guy. being rich was never a part of my repertoire. It was not having fun in life was my biggest. Um, that's what I wanted out of life. I wanted to be able to do the things and show my children a good life, prepare them for their future, and not be restricted to the things that I did in life. So I took that with me and I put that in them because, you know, this is what I did. This is what my dad did. This is how my parents. You got to be smart. You got to get A's and B's in school. See, all that kind of shit led to a lot of the things that I ever did in life. So if you never really grew up trying to be rich, I wouldn't know what it meant to be rich. I grew up learning how to have things and be able to get them things when you wanted them without going out treating people wrong to get it, being stupid and not get it, and being able to put in the work to get it and to have it and do the right thing with it. When you come around a household like that and then being disciplined by the Marine Corps and you put all that together, it was easy for me to have fun in life and still take care of my family and still deal with these dogs. Yeah, complication comes. We all have to live some type of way. See, there's nothing that people can hate on me about my life because you never lived my life. Just like I can't do that to anyone else. We all make mistakes in life. My brother been in prison. I ain't never been in prison. You know, but I've been there and I experienced everything that he went through because he was never by himself. But when you live life and understand the things that not everybody know, things look a lot different. And I always want this community to understand that everything that you're going through right now, all the Facebook and shit and the talking shit, I pull out articles from 1970. I mean, from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I can keep pulling articles, and I swear to God, them same conversation they was having in them articles is the same shit that y'all talking now. Shit don't change. The thing is, when I'm talking about Danny Burton, when I talk about Floyd Boudreaux, when I talk about Earl Tudor, guess what, fellas? I can talk about them in the now, and they still can be relevant in this thing we call American Pit Bull Terrier dog community, the fraternity. Because these are very important people that had a lot to do with the growth of that community. Michael Jordan was not the one that, put the basketball on the map when you had Julius Irving and George Gervin and all these other guys, Daryl Dawkins and the Wilt Chamberlains, the Abdul Jabbars, I mean, the Nick Barnetts. I mean, I can go on and on and on with that, not just in basketball, do the same goddamn thing with baseball with Vita Blue and them guys all the way back down to football, all the way back to damn near Jim Brown, Larry Zonka, Paul Warfield, Fran Tarkenton. See, I'm into that shit to where I can be even talking to do the same thing with the boxing. Roberto Duran. You know what I mean? Who else? We got Roberto Duran. You had Sugar Ray. I mean, you think about even the boxing. You had more great fights back then than you can even possibly put together now. They make more money now than them guys back then made in every sport. But the competition was so damn tough then that it looks so watered down now because everybody seemed to be scared of everybody. I can say that because I really actually lived that. And if you are a historian, whether it was in dogs, whether it was in boxing, you got people who are the historians to their sport. Y'all know what I'm saying. Come on, you got to really know that over time things have changed, even down to football. I mean, remember there was a time they was clotheslining. I mean, some of the most dirtiest players in the game was on that football field. You can barely blow on the paper now on a player nowadays, and you're getting a flag. When back then they was ripping heads off. They was blindsiding and punching and everything else down in the hole. I mean, some of the meanest damn football players. I can't even remember his name. I used to growing up. I used to love this guy. He was supposed to be the dirtiest player in football. He played for the I think they was called the St. Louis Cardinals. And I'm in age, I just don't. His name is on the tip of my. I'm speaking on him because he was the really, literally the dirtiest player in football, and you could expect any and everything from this guy. I just can't even say his name, but some of my old guys out there, y'all know who I'm talking about because he carried that. He carried that name as the dirtiest player. He wasn't like the Raiders had them assassins back there. They wasn't really dirty. They was just known for hitters. You know, Jack Tatum and them boys. They was hitters. But you had players who had them certain tags that made them who they were. We kind of got away from that, just like in the dogs. Like you're getting away from it because it's not really about the competition anymore. You know, I showed y'all on Tuesday about a dog that pulled that 7,000 pounds. Well, I finished reading that story, and I didn't. Mo had told he told me I didn't get down to the part that that male that had did that 7,000 pounds. The dog died. I think he said 3 days later after that. But the fact was, to me, this is what bulldogs do though. Even in something as simple as weight pulling, that dog don't know the deal. That dog won that competition, but never recovered from what it took to win that competition. I just didn't get down to that part of the story that came with that because I was really it wouldn't have fit into what I was saying, but it kind of fits in tonight because I wanted y'all to know you just seen the story, but look how clean that's doing it y'all way. That's dog doing weight pulling, you know what I mean, and that worked. And he was able to pull, be pound for pound, be able to pull that much weight, and it still did damage to where he couldn't recover. But then that's a bulldog who was all in. And if you ever had one that ever do weight pulling, or even if you have one that you're conditioning with weights, and y'all know, you understand what I'm saying because see, I don't let dogs quit on meals, and I don't let dogs give up on weight pulling, on their weight work. There's nothing that I get, even when I'm, running, letting them run around. I don't make them do anything. I mean, when it comes down to me having to take the hide from them or get them off the flirt pole hide, I'm grabbing them and I'm getting the breaking stick and I'm breaking them off. The fight is on. I want that intensity. I want him to be acting crazy because I got to break him off of it. Ain't no such thing as me waiting for him to get off of it. I like it better when I got to break him off because I like that intensity. I like that fire. So when I throw it over and he's stressed out, I can pick him up and walk away with it. I like to see them when they get like that. I love it when they're acting like that because it's in them to be like that. They on point. And imagine training them constantly. And I say training. There's nothing I'm doing because I'm not really training them to do a damn thing. I'm actually taking advantage of taking something that they want so bad and they were having so much fun with that they are totally, totally so geeked up and hyped up that I'm just going to have to calm them down because they're not done. I'm making them done. I take them away. These are the things that you learn along the way. And does it help? Yeah. Because if it doesn't do anything, it builds up that intensity. Because I can take them back out there the next day and they know The last time they seen that hide, I was putting it in the back of something, whether it was in the little shed or it was in this little truck box, that I have on the truck. I open it up and I throw it in there and I close it. That the next day I can go out there and before I do anything, and they're not even on a leash. They out. It's in my yard, so I turn loose. They're gonna go right to that truck and jump up on that because that was the last place they seen they hide, and they're gonna keep running back to me because they know, hey, that hides in there. I like to see that kind of attention because it's nothing I'm training them to do. That's something that I know they love to do. I'll tie them up and go over there and get that hide. And the minute they see that thing popped open, they already going crazy. Yeah, I knew it was right there. I knew it was right there. You bring it here. Bring it here. See, those things I love about the dog because it's in them. It don't make them a grand champion or a champion, but guess what it does do? It builds my confidence up because I know they got that much in them. I know it's just a hide, but to me, it's more than a hide. It's me controlling that intensity because now I'm gonna take it away from you. And for every day that I take this away from you, the matter and matter I want you to get because I know you want it that bad. I love that intensity and how much they're willing to work for. Even when I got them out there on that sled, pulling them weights. Mo increases that weight harness. He increases that weight on that neck collar. And he builds on that, what they're doing as far as they weight pulling. But their bodies is built to be able to take on that, because that same hide that they just got to have will get them through that conditioning of that weight pulling. Because I'm going to put it right there and I'm going to make them come get it. Yeah, they start out struggling because it's something they wasn't used to. But they still going to come get that high. But before it's all said and done with the increase of that weight, they're going to be running with it. Running with it. Now they're running with more weight. The intensity stayed the same. But the body gave them the ability to get there faster. That's me just giving you a small insight of being able to look at the success and how I got to be there with that success and appreciate the fact that all that work paid off. Can't help but appreciate it. But I can go step by step because I've done it. I've seen it. I know what it took to do that. These old dog men, that's the way they be feeling. That's the way they became successful. They didn't give a damn to get the recognition from everybody else. Their work was always going to speak for itself. And I stay on that. Because every time I hear people talk shit, every time I see people put down other people, I never get a chance to see, what makes this person so much better than that person. I mean, we might talk shit about Maurice Carver all day, but guess what? It don't matter. They can talk shit about Tom Garner. But to me, it's have you done anything close to what Tom has done? I mean, I'm not I respect Tom as a dog man, period. His work speaks for itself. I mean, there's not too many pedigrees that you can't look in today to see that man's name still popping up. And I can take y'all shit way back there when we was in North Carolina. You still gonna see Tom's shit. This is nothing new. This is what it looks like when you've done it over the years. Same thing with Floyd. Look how many pedigrees you're gonna look and go back far enough. You're gonna find Floyd and all these other men that we talk about. I think it's just grateful to be able to say it up there and say, but because of them, we were able to do the things we did. And believe me, trust me, we was not the first to do it, but we knew based on Kennel partner and Mo and them understanding what they were doing, that they were able to duplicate and get the same results. We've always been fans of that. Always been fans of that. And we only tell y'all that because that's phone. We can't tell you about nothing that we ain't done. I can tell you a whole lot about what we have done. And that's not putting us any bigger than anybody else because there's people that's our mentors that we can never be on their level. And that is the truth. Give it down what y'all think of what other people say. That's just a fact. Because I know we didn't never have as many grand champions as Mao and some of the other fellas out there. I mean, they have been doing it a lot longer than us and had access to a lot more things than us, and they were running camps. So it's a lot different when you're running a camp compared to doing what we is doing. You know, you think about if we had been in the game the same time that when our proteges took over, where we wouldn't have had to get rid of the dogs like we ended up doing, or having all them dogs stolen and having all them dogs killed. And now you got two camps. You got us, proteges, and them. Remember, Jamie would have never got the dogs that he got because then Ben would have still had his yard. I look at all the things that when shit got the way it got, how we closed off everybody to protect everybody, but then left everybody in good hands. And what they did, can't help but be proud of them. See, they have us, regardless of what anybody say about their work. They always know we're gonna always give them the respect that the respect is due because they did that. They did that. They can put whatever name they wanted because regardless of what they do with it, I know I'm gonna always go back and I'm gonna see where it started at. And they've always, with no repercussions, appreciated and gave that respect where respect was due, just like we give it to the people who are responsible for who we are. I always felt that was important because don't be for the older guys, the Floyds and all of them was doing, we don't know what this game would have looked like. If it don't be for their dogs, then hey, what would we be talking about? But I always thought it's important as a dog man to, before you start, attacking what another person does, I really think that it is important to pay more close attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it and the way you're doing it. And then be appreciative of your work because you have the success based on what you've done that will speak for itself, where you don't have to say anything. And that's the thing about being able to be appreciative with all the other shit that we put into these dogs, to be able to appreciate what you've done and be successful at it, regardless of what other people say. You really don't have anything to say because your work gonna always speak for itself. And I bring that to you guys because I hear these conversations and I do pay attention to everything that goes on Facebook. And it's, you can go tell some people, oh, you ain't do shit, you ain't got shit. But some people you can't say that to. Some people you can't even have that argument with because you just ain't the one to be having that argument with that person because you don't have nothing but talk. You don't have nothing to stand on. And you already know, that's why I read that story about Bully Son. The great Bully Son stood there. I mean, no doubt about it. Couldn't see nothing. The dog just stood there. And look at over the years, the many stories that you hear. But let's take this back when it was closer to the time that it actually happened. You'll truly understand. That was a hurting feeling that day. That dog actually went back home, y'all. Same thing with Snooty. They went back home. But Red Ace didn't. That don't make us better than them. That didn't make us look like we didn't know what we was doing or nothing, nothing. It's just their standards was different than our standards. We probably could have got more dogs out of her if we had to did what they did. But we not them. We weren't thinking like them. We were thinking like us. And that's what's important in this game. Stop worrying about what other people think. Start worrying more about what you are doing and where you trying to go. If you're doing all that, you don't have time to be concerned about what everybody else doing. So why would it even matter? They not feeding your shit. They ain't cleaning up that shit. They ain't the ones taking you away from your family. I heard one of my fellas say something that was so much the truth. Said to get up and go to work, get home by 5. Get in at 5 o'clock, he back out with the dog. By the time he get done with the dogs, kids, when he wake up in the morning, kids is off to school when he go to work. By the time he get home, he out there with the dogs, so kids then came home, did their hang on work, ate, went to bed because by the time he get the dogs, take them out, clean them up, do the walk, 10 o'clock. By the time he come in the house, kids is in bed. He just get a little bit of time because he got to get up and go to work tomorrow, and that day starts all over again. That's the truth. He was so right. I felt that because we have been a part of that. I knew when for that to even be a conversation when somebody says it, he was basically saying it the same reason why I'm saying it. You don't know, you ain't doing nothing until you know what that shit feels like. You don't know nothing until you know what it is to sacrifice and understand what that person is really trying to say because he's right. He just happened to say it because he's right. I get up, I go to work. By the time I get home, I'm out there with the dogs. I don't get back in at 10. The kids done came home, did homework, ate. They in bed, time to go to school, and now I don't get a chance to see them until we passing each other. They on the way to school, and I'm on my way to work. So I spent many years knowing what that shit felt like, knowing what it looked like. I didn't lose my marriage behind it, but again, I didn't have a yard full of 80 dogs either. I put that burden was on Mo. Yeah, my kids, they would spend more time in his house than my house because we were always over there because we were dealing with the dogs. So why not bring my clan over there and the kids get a chance to hang out with each other and hang out with the dogs? But the fact was, that was our life. Everybody's got a different aspect in how you look at that. But the fact is, at what point do you really stop and find appreciation for what you've done? Because I think once you find it in yourself and satisfy that in yourself, you'll realize that there's no reason for you to talk shit on nobody else because it would never matter to you the way you want to. And that's how I be knowing the difference between the bullshitters and the real ones. Because the real ones, they ain't gonna come at you unless you come at them. And I'm telling you, that conversation gonna be a real quick and short conversation if you ain't never done shit. And before they waste their breath trying to explain who and what they have done, they'll spend their time in silence just waiting on you to say something other than a bunch of nothing. And that's what I have found out dealing with the internet. There's a whole lot of everything out there, but how do you separate the real from the fake? Well, I've been doing business for a long time, and trust me, it's not hard. To be a master of your trade, you should be able to realize and understand the difference between what's wrong, what's right, what's real, and what ain't real. what's a good deal and what's a fake ass deal. If it's too good to be true, you better at least have enough sense to realize you might just be lucky enough to have an opportunity to take advantage of something that not everybody else can have. So I'm not one of them who falls in that. If it sounds too good to be true, it ain't true. I'm not a believer in that. Feel like I'm a good character of people. I've had some of the best deals ever in life that was supposed to be too good to be true. I had E40 and the whole entire clique for $4,000 to come do my birthday party. 4,000. That was just to fly them all in and fly them into their next destination the next morning. Even though I had done shows with them before, but they heard it was our birthday and they felt like, hey, send me forward, take care of us, and send us off to the trip, and we'll come spend your birthday with you. I mean, the whole entire clique. You know, that was a hell of a birthday party. But when they say, oh, that deal is too good to be true, well, guess what? When they people got in contact with my people and said that, we could have said the same thing. Oh, that's too good to be true. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to know. They gonna, that's just gonna be a waste of money. No. How about how much they say? Go buy the tickets. Go get the room set up. Go send them the itinerary. Damn if they didn't show up. Damn if we didn't kick it. And damn if they wasn't on the flight the next morning. We dapping up and everything after having a hell of a fun night. So I ain't never been one of, too good to be true type of people. I always believe in giving, regardless of who it is, a chance. Just know the difference. Protect yourself because that's what this is all about. So I just bring that to point because it's all about the appreciation for yourself first in any and everything that you do, including these dogs, because you're the one actually doing all the work. So it's not, intimidation does not bother me. If anybody, I always said, you got them people back in the day when we first got here to Florida, there was a lot of, we from up north. So that was already type of shit. But guess what? Bring that shit on over here and we'll make your ass a believer. Welcome to Florida. Florida, we going hard. That went a long way here. One thing for damn sure, it brought our proteges. It got their attention. It got a whole lot of people that we became real close with. Based on just being you. And that you being you brought us in to see bigger and better things. We don't have enough of that. Too many times I get on here and show you just how important people's relationships have been over the years when it comes to these dogs. You always see so-and-so knew so-and-so and so-and-so was doing business with so-and-so. It's always been there. So we ain't doing nothing no different. Yeah, you can hate on all that bullshit. Because I heard J-Bo make a comment about, guess what, we always right. He made that comment. And I don't get mad about that comment. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I know who I am. You know how I know who I am? Do I have to explain that? Really? I don't. I run my ship. I make it a point. I don't have to lie about a damn thing. You gotta understand, I deal with, on a professional basis, I deal with homeowners. I deal with professional owners, people, banks, and you know, homeowners, all types of people, simply because of what I do for a living. And when they talk to me and I talk to them, it's a mutual respect because it's money involved. I have no choice but to be stand on what I'm saying when I'm doing business. I have no choice but to stand on what I'm doing. That means I believe cold-heartedly in my job, what I do. It's my business. I have to. My word will be my bond. If I say I'm going to do something, I sign that piece of paper, I'm going to stand on everything that I'm required to stand on, just like I'm going to hold you to everything that you agreed to when you sign this piece of paper. You're going to do it. And there is nobody taking advantage of nobody, because there's ways to deal with people who try to do shit like that. So yeah, if I feel like you're doing something that I don't like, I can talk all the shit I want, and I meant what I said. Don't make me have to come take care of that personally. I say that not thinking I'm a badass. I say that because I'm responsible for the ship that I control. Nobody. And I mean, when I say nobody, I mean nobody disrespects that. I mean that. In my position and in my job, I have the right, because who gonna fire me? Who gonna tell me what I can and can't do that I have to worry about my job? Nobody. So what do I have to lie about? You damn right I'm always right. Might be wrong sometimes, but again, it takes me to find that. And maybe that's the key to success in business, because you try not to be wrong, because anytime that you're wrong, that means you made a mistake. How many people can be successful making a bunch of mistakes? How can you be successful in these dogs making a bunch of mistakes? How can you be successful at home by making a bunch of mistakes? So I don't have no problems when you say I'm always right. Because in reality, that's what I work hard for, to be right. I don't have to lie about a damn thing. I stand on everything that I say. Don't mean I got to be right all the time, but you better make good and damn sure that when you say I'm wrong, you're standing on something a lot better than just saying it without proving it. Because one thing that I have learned in doing business, receipts have always been a life-saving savior in any business that I've ever worked on. Everything, every contract, every business deal, every person that I've ever, from artists to the dog man to the music world, all the things that I have done in life, even down to helping people. I'm a licensed insurance agent, but I don't call myself an insurance agent because I don't go out and try to sell insurance to anybody. I call myself a financial advisor. You know why I do that, fellas? Because I take what I know, what I'm licensed to do, and I give people information who have no idea, none whatsoever, because nobody's running out here telling you. But I bring it to people's attention, and I sit down and I tell them. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to make you aware of the responsibilities and generational wealth can be easy, because the only reason that you're not doing it because nobody's ever sat down and talked to you and put you on that pathway. So you would never know about something if it's never brought to your attention. So I've always made it a point to always have that conversation as a financial advisor to somebody without trying to sell them anything. Because this just starts out as a general comment. They'll be like, Twin, well, how you know all this? How you know all of that? Because I'm licensed. Been licensed for a couple of years. Well, why ain't you ever do it? I didn't get licensed to be doing it to do anything but no more than what I'm doing now. It's helping people who don't know. So, yeah, I can always try to be right because I'm always trying to help people. Always trying to put people in directions because not everybody can do what we can do. That's why everybody have different jobs. So I don't know what y'all jobs is, but I know my jobs. I don't brag and boast about my jobs. No, I just stand on the fact that I don't have to do a 9 to 5 at 64 years old. Now I'm not filthy ass rich. I've raised 7 children. I'm just really, really, truly am blessed to sit back and say I'm proud to be their father. Because all my 7 children, only 2 of them, and it happens to be the 2 boys that work for somebody. The rest of the girls, they don't work for nobody. They run their own shit. I could have got my 2 hard-ass boys to do what my girls did. You know what I mean? You know, probably would have been a different story. But then again, I was probably a little bit harder on the boys to turn them away from being and doing what I did compared to me being on the girls where you don't need no nigga, you don't need no man to take care of you. Let's see what kind of man want to be around you when you taking care of yourself. So be careful what kind of man you talking about bringing home to me. That worked on the girls, didn't work on the boys. How can I tell you? How do I know that? Come on, it's my life. I can tell you. Go on my Facebook, you can see all my kids, all of them. You know, I got beautiful children, but they grown. I'm a grandfather now. So yeah, this is the things that I be looking at, and I hope this community as dog man, because again, I told you I get around to everybody's show and I hear a whole lot of shit. So I always think about what am I going to say Friday. So I talk about the things that I say that, yeah, you're right, J-Bo. We're always right. You're right. But we put ourselves in a position to be right. And anybody who chooses to doubt that, then you sure you want to have an argument? Because that's like arguing with me trying to tell me that my name ain't Michael. They call me Money. I'm one of the GHK twins. Can you imagine what that felt like for somebody to actually literally be arguing with me by trying to tell me GHK is some Spanish boys. The twins, they Spanish. And you really, but you said you know the twins. Yeah, I do. They Spanish. Well, how far do you think that argument's going to go? But I've had that argument before because, well, I thought y'all was Spanish. I didn't know y'all was black. Okay. But don't argue with me about who the hell I am. And if that means me being right, yeah, you goddamn right. God, there's just certain things that you just not worth arguing with. Let's just get straight to the facts and move on. Because before that conversation was going any further, it's going to stop right there when I say, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I can truly tell you that I am not Spanish. I'm just as black as they come. Got mixed a little bit, but it ain't no Spanish nowhere in there. But these are the things that I try to put out here, not to be like this, but to keep it real, because I think the best way to do anything in life is be yourself and try to be the realest person that you can be. There's a whole lot of people, in life, and they're doing a lot of things, and especially when it came to these dogs, we have cleaned out a lot of yards, and then that never happened because we was just trying to be right. That happened simply because other people was trying to prove points. If you didn't learn by the first one, that's okay. That's okay, because we got a yard full of some shit over here, and by the time we're done, we got to go take a second look, because by the time we finish with your shit, maybe your shit wasn't worthy to be out there anyway, so we're not going to grade our yard based on the shit we just ran through. But one thing for sure, we don't have to hear your mouth no more. That conversation been over. So when you hear people say, "Yeah, I didn't see them come through and just wipe out yards," only way I could ever wipe out your yard is you keep firing shit to the point to where you don't have nothing else to fire. I thought you would have figured that out by the second dog, because I would have thought that the best shit should have been your first shit. I would have been scared to go back on the yard to bring anything else back, being that was supposed to be your best shit. And I used to actually literally say that to him. Well, if you had that one back, I would have thought you'd have bought that one first. But don't worry about it. I got something for that too. Yeah, that's me. That's how bold I am about shit. Yeah, and I will make you mad beating up on your shit. Yes, I will make you mad on a job site if you ever come up to me and tell me to grab a wheelbarrow or tell me go do this or go do that. The only reason that I get mad because you're not going to like my response when you do some shit like that, because evidently you don't know who I am. Don't let my color fool you. I've had to deal with many situations like that simply because I'm telling you this is how people are. But if I'm handling them in the same way, I know I'm going to get the same results. Because at that point, when it happens like that, I don't even want them on my job site. The man says he don't want you on the job site. That's the AC contractor, and them is his people there. And we rather have him here than you. We can get rid of you. We can't get rid of him. Because that's the only way I'm going to come back to the job site, because I'll pull my people off and we go back and find something else to do, because you need what I got. So I always know how to work my hand. And I take advantage of that. But that's life, though. Life is going to be only as good as the situation, the position you put yourself in to deal with certain situations. So big shout out to my man J-Bo and Dogman TV. And I stand on that part that you did say. We always right. And you're right, J-Bo, because I live to be right. I live that I don't have to lie. I live that I don't have to steal. I live that I don't have to cheat. I live that I don't have to put myself on no pedestal, because for me, my life is my pedestal anyway, because I've made it this far and I am nowhere close to being rich. But one goddamn thing for sure, I am happy to just be alive and still be the same person I've been my whole entire life, and nobody can change that. That's what I'm proud of. That's what I stand 10 toes down on. That's the part that I try to get everybody in this dog game to understand. It's not being bigger and better than anybody. Your biggest challenge is always going to be yourself. Because anything you do in life, you're going to be the one who has to be responsible for the decisions you make. I'm talking to grown people. Y'all know better. So don't look at an older grown man and think he don't know what the hell he talking about. Because some of y'all still got to get to where I've already been. And I can say that because I'm here to say it. So take that shit and take it in, fellas, and ride with it and get something out of this community that's going to benefit you as a dog man. Yeah, it's okay to hear the stories. It's important to hear the stories. But in the stories, find that something that's going to work for you. Because in every dog man that we've ever been around and ever met, we always took something from the conversation. Always. Even if it was something I didn't like about you. I took that with me, because it was always that if it was something I didn't like about you, I kept that. And I'd be like, I hope you try to play me like that. If I see you did that to somebody else, I want you to try to play me like that, because you're going to have the shock of your life. Because you're going to realize real quick, I ain't even the one. And maybe you've been getting away with that shit so long that you really thought that shit work on everybody. But today you just made the biggest mistake of your life. But then maybe that's just who we are. I don't brag on that. Fellas, this is what I do for a living. This is the role I have to be because I am, you know, president, CEO, top dogs, you know. Ain't nobody higher than where I am because I run my own shit. And I'm okay with that. That don't make me better than none of y'all. That just makes me who I am over in this world. And over in this world, this is where it matters at. Because I still got to live. It's just how I choose to. That's what's important, fellas. That's what's important in anything that you guys do in life, especially these dogs. Can't keep going out here getting burnt. You don't have to be lying on papers. You don't have to be putting another man down when you ain't got shit. So how is you in the position to be putting anybody down when you ain't even doing shit your damn self? How does that work? You know, that don't make sense to me. And please don't bring it over here because, you know, don't, first of all, people never gonna like the way we talk. You know, and I get that even in the business world. Mr. Bettis, you went from 0 to 100 so fast. You're damn right. Because most of the time when people try to take advantage of you, they go from 0 to 100 in the process of trying to do it and then try to bully you like, well, I'm not going to do nothing. You know, it's like this and like that, and this is where it's going to be. Oh, really? Well, my tone gets a whole lot higher, and sometimes I can be a whole lot more aggressive with my tone because it ain't gonna be like that just because you say so. I'm gonna prove that before this conversation is over. No, that don't make me no big badass, y'all, for real. And I mean that when I say this to y'all. That don't make me no big badass, but it does make me president and CEO and the man who makes decisions around this place. So I'm only gonna put up with what I want to put up with, and there ain't too much that I put up with that I don't want to put up with, and I stand on that 10 toes down, just like him. So don't take them conversations and think that we're always right because we think we're always right. No, I don't think I'm always right. What I really be thinking is I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. Why? Because I've lived it. There's my receipt. So I don't have to think hard to figure out what my life was been like and my experiences in life. I don't really think hard about that, fellas. I know about dogs. I know about this. I know about that. I've been there. I've done that. I've been on every level of that. And the whole time, it never was meant to be anything but having fun. If I really took Rich to being an issue, I could have done so many things different. Remember, we could have been selling puppies. We could have been selling guard dogs. We could have been selling major albums instead of signing people away. I mean, there's so many things. If I was that guy who grew up trying to do everything in life the right way, but have fun doing it instead of doing it with responsibility, you know, that comes along with doing some of the things we did. Like, you know, we tell you all some of the dumb shit that we used to do. Some of the mistakes that we have made. Remember, I tell you all the time, you don't become successful by making mistakes. Become successful by taking advantage of the things that you know, and prevent yourself from making mistakes. When you're having fun, you wind up like Diddy. See, good businessman, but look what the mistakes he made along the way. Those are just little small examples for me. Like I can give you so many more examples where there's been, the R. Kellys and even my man DMX and you know, even like my man from that I had signed that had $1 million contract, got signed by a record label, and 3 weeks after being signed, came back to Akron and got killed in a drug deal, gone bad. Why would you be out there with $1 million deal and be around drugs at all? Bad decision, bad, worstest decision a person could have ever made based on the opportunity that that person had. And it just went just that quick. Sad day for me. It was one of my artists. But been there, fellas. Done that. Seen that. I know what hard-headed people do. It wasn't even their money involved in it. They was there to make money. I was there to make money too. But the fact was, you were in a position and we did this together and you put all that on the line and you didn't have to do that, but you did it and it cost you your life. It cost me my money, but your life was more important than my money because I'm still here. I can always try to make that money back. But nothing was worse than seeing that man lose his life. I've had a couple. I've seen them burn behind mistakes. Sometimes I blame it on myself because maybe I was like, they really wasn't ready. But you're always going to give somebody the opportunity and try to fix them along the way. But you can't fix everybody. And that's the way this game, and that's just how life works. So I think I'm old enough to be able to say that. Some people might be out here a little older than I am. Some of y'all might be a little younger, but then you have at least a little common sense up here that you know everything I'm saying to you. You're going to know somebody that's related or have somebody that you know that fall in that category, and you're going to be saying the same damn thing I'm saying. And we in a whole new different type of world, but this is that thing called life. I want y'all to understand why I feel and why we talk about the shit that we talk about and say the shit that we say. Because you're not going to find it come no realer than that. Because we don't have nothing to lose. Sure as hell don't have nothing to gain. But if anything that you can get out of these conversations, that's up to you to find that and find out what out of this conversation going to work for you. Only you'll know that. But we do get a lot of people to come back and say, twin, I ain't never look at it that way. Or twin, you was right about so-and-so because I had a boy that did that thing. I could have done something, but, they wouldn't listen. I get a whole lot of that, not just through dogs, but just because of the things I've done in life and the amount of people that I deal with on a daily basis. These things are important, man. Tonight's show is to get you to understand about having appreciation for yourself and the work that you do. And be proud of your work because can't nobody take that from you. And only a fool will let anybody abuse that. And you don't get to where you're going by letting people walk over you. You get to where you need to go by defending yourself and taking and handling your business the way it's supposed to be handled. That's the reality check of dealing with these bulldogs. So don't cry about, what the next man is doing. Why are you concerned about what the next man is doing unless he's doing it better than you? And now you're looking like a little, to me, I call you kind of people suckers. You talk that shit, but you really ain't about that shit. The quietest man, the most dangerous man is the quietest man in the room. Why? Because you really don't know nothing about him. Nothing, because he don't have no expression on his face, and he's not getting involved. So you look around and say, "Why? I wonder why he's so quiet." That you want to know who it is. That's the one you need to be worried about, and you better be careful about how you speak. The fact is, he got to be of some type of importance because he is in the room, and you really don't know who you're fixing to talk to. So I know that role so well because I am that quietest person in the room. And boy, when I do stand up and have to say something, I might turn out to be the loudest person in the room, but it'd be at that point you would have liked me better when I was sitting over there saying nothing. To the point that I got to get up now. You're gonna see just how much power I hold within this room. And I like that about my business and the things that I do because I don't have to do business with you, and I really can shut shit down. Yeah, I really put myself in a position where they have to actually come back, Mr. Bayless Superstar. We took care of that person, and we got somebody else that's going to come back in, and you can just call us and let us know, you know, anything that we need to do to get this right for you. Then, we're going to do that. But it don't take much for me to make things right because I'm still trying to save an opportunity. Take advantage of it because, if you made a mistake, guess what? I'll make you pay on the next bill. The next time it come out, the bill gonna be a little bit higher. Cause I know how to get you. I'm gonna hit you in your pocket, but I'm not gonna just throw you away. Cause I need that money. You go ahead and fix that up, and everything gonna be all good. But I know I'm gonna get you, cause it's it happened. But we're gonna say that for another day. Understand that, gentlemen. I just wanted to give y'all a quick picture from y'all know what I do for GHK. You know where I stand when it comes to doing these shows. And when I speak on it, I'm only speaking on it because you know what? I've seen it, I've heard it, and I just like to put that out there because this conversation might not help everybody, but it just might help the right person. Because we all have to live it. We all hear it. You know, there's so many people, some of the guys out here trying to do different things. Again, okay, that works if you got a plan. But then that's the whole thing about talking. Talking about a plan with no action means you're a bullshitter, which means most of the time those plans don't go nowhere. In my business, we deal with plans, blueprints. We deal with business proposals, you know, projects. We everything's pretty much planned out. That when they hand me the thing, by the time I get with it and say, okay, for this plan right here, this is what it's going to cost you. This is what I'm going to need, and everybody agrees to it. Then it's all about execution. Ain't that how they pay you at your job to do a certain job? You don't do that job right, they're gonna find every reason in the world to tell you why they don't need you no more. You know, I got way out of those type of situations. I wanted to always be the one that gave the opportunity because I always tried to be fair to any and everybody that ever came around us. And believe it or not, Mo is a nice one between us. You might see Mo sitting here going off, and you see Mo doing the things he does, but between us, he is actually the nicer one. But I bring this conversation because I'm all about growth in the Pitbull community. I'm all about the history and understanding. I didn't feel a certain type of way when I heard Bo say, and they're always right. And you know what, Bo? You're right. You don't know how much truth you really found in that conversation. Now, I don't know if you meant to be sarcastic or how other people took it. That's why I'm going to let you know. I want y'all to hear it come out of my mouth. Because y'all have seen we have over what? We just been over 300 or something videos. So y'all know the difference between me and Mo. And Mo always said, I mean, these videos they don't take care of us. They really don't. We do this because this is what we talk about giving back. So no, I don't have no problems with being right because you're right. That's what I actually do for a living. It pays for me to try to be as right as possible. So no, I don't take that as an insult. I take that as a man who, based on what little bit he does know about me or about us, at least he has picked up on that point. And I can truly say to him, with no regrets and no disheartenment and no disrespect, I'm glad you've seen that in us, Bo. Because I'm taking it when it's coming from a man like you, you know what you see, and you're absolutely right, because that's the way we live our lives. We try to be right based on what we do. The only way you're going to make us wrong is you're going to either be standing over there, because ain't nothing else going to change that way of thinking. You're going to have to prove it. Period. Talking shit don't get you nowhere. What's wrong with that, y'all? What's wrong with that? Understand this, man. I ain't trying to be no bully tonight. I'm just trying to be the realest of the realest tonight. Let me see who I got in here. I think I got everything caught up. Let me see. Oh my gosh, I got my wife talking to me. But look, fellas, I'm at that 12 o'clock mark. I have Mo sitting here, but Mo been sick. Mo finna go back into surgery, y'all. That's we've been out dealing with his hospital issues. I just want y'all to know he gonna be back, but in our daily lives, which we still have lives outside of this podcast, I still get a chance to watch all y'all, and I'm going to give a big shout out to all of y'all: Samurai, J-Bo, Big Fam, Elevated, I mean, PBK, everybody, because we all might have our different purposes, but still, Sport and Dog Archives, this is still a community. The Shark Tank, all my people on the back street. We're gonna get back into talking dogs, but remember, in order to have any kind of successful business or any type of community, like in the hood, growing up, west side of Akron, southwest side of Akron, then you had the north side, and then you had the east side. So, north side, they had their community things going on. Southwest, everybody had their thing, but them people took, pride in their sides of town. We didn't have gangs. I mean, anybody that came in and thought you was a Crip or you just so and so from out of town, you don't come to Akron High with that shit, because you was gonna have a problem. It's like it's hard to invade a community that nobody, the community ain't really a community. That means there's no outside supposed to walk into your community and take over your community without you letting them. And I can truly say that about my many years of growing up in Akron, which is one of the main reasons I am the way I am to this day, is you just ain't gonna walk in my house and then house my house. You ain't gonna walk on my street or my block and just think you gonna house my block. It ain't gonna happen. And I don't need a whole lot of people to make sure it don't happen. All I need is the right people. And most of the time, the right people who are going to be thinking like me, you're going to have a problem. That's life right there. That's being, real about what you're saying. That's real. You don't have to talk about this shit, but you better be about it. That's the reality of anything or any conversation that comes out of here. Now, maybe that might be a little, brash. That's a little hard on some type of people. It make you feel a certain type of way. It's okay. Everybody, has an opinion. Everybody has the right to assume. Everybody has the same rights in the United States of America as I do, as they say. But we know that ain't always true. We know we don't have the right, to say what we want to say, do what we want to do, just like they said in the article. The rights really don't exist, but we're gonna go ahead and just say we're supposed to have them rights. It's just some rights you have to just stand on and fight for when you shouldn't really have to fight for. Those are the rights that you are initially entitled to based on the Constitution of the United States. But there are some rights that you have to be able to set for yourself that don't involve all that. That you have to be able to take that same stance for and don't do like you deal with when it comes to your big, the big United States of America who really, don't respect your rights because not everybody respects the rights of every individual in America. But then there's some people who stand on those rights and refuse to have those rights stepped on. And they will be heard and they will take actions if they feel like their rights are being stepped on. But y'all know, like I know, that's life. So don't hate on anybody that feels like they have the right to do what they're doing because maybe they do. Just like you have the right to like it or dislike it, to watch this channel or go to another channel and watch. You have the right to do whatever you want to do. Don't let people take that right from you or make you feel like you have to make a choice between what you do. Never been one for that. Never been that type of guy. But again, doesn't mean them people don't exist. It's just a matter of which one are you. I think anytime a man appreciates his body of work because he understands what it took to get where he got to where he can sit back and appreciate the amount of work that he put in it to get where he at. That's self-preservation. That's self-appreciation. That's self-respect for themselves. And you have that for yourself. It's hard for people to come down and tear that down. And when you have it like that, you don't really need too much to defend that. It's only danger when you really try to come take that. Just a matter of who you trying to be. I want people to get more out of what they're doing when it comes to these dogs and pay a lot more attention to the old way of doing things. I said the old way of doing things. When I grew up, my mama and them used to whip my ass for messing up. And it would have never crossed my mind to go tell anybody that my mama beat my ass or my dad whipped my ass. Because somebody gonna say, well, what did you do? I spit on the teacher, or I beat up JoJo, or I did something that my parents didn't like, and they beat my ass. But they don't have no business beating my ass, right? That's how that's supposed to work, because that's exactly how that works nowadays. I always say that things ain't the same. Where now, even with my kids, You know, for them, I was supposed to change with the times, but I refused to. Which now I look back and be glad that I didn't, because they don't run me, I run them. Maybe that saved them in life. You know, so many of us, whether society did or however you did, I think again, everything starts at home. If you don't have no control over your home, then everything's liable to happen because there's so much influence out here that, like in this community, only thing that sells around here, the only thing to get views, if I was to get on here and start talking about all the sorry ass people that I know is in this motherfucking bulldog game and start talking about them individually, and then guarantee you, you might see 12,000 views and shit. Twin done went the hell off. What's that word they say? He done damn, Mike done flipped out, or I can't even think of the word. Oh, Mike done crashed out. That's the word. That's what the kids are saying nowadays. You know, Twin done crashed out. You know what that mean? You know, he just done flipped out. He just talk about everybody. He put everybody on blast. You know what I mean? You know, y'all never hardly see. You don't never see me doing that. First of all, you see I might get an attitude, but then that's like any other thing. I don't run and go get my gun because I don't like what the owner of this business say. No, I don't go get my gun and be ready to beat his ass because you know you don't COD mean what it is. When it's job done, you pay. Cause I don't know you well enough to be talking about see me next week. Cause the fact is, you blew it when you didn't take care of the COD. So why the hell would I be thinking about you taking care of something next week? That's not even part of the discussion. This discussion is going to start right here. The thing is how you going to deal with me dealing with this discussion based on I'm not moving off of what I'm saying. And this conversation don't go long because I don't owe you shit. Your job is that my job is already done. The fact is, now you owe me something. And out of this whole conversation, I can get more than what I'm originally looking to get if you had done the right thing. But being that you choose to do the wrong thing, I'm going to get more than what you owe me now by the time I'm done with you. And I don't be nice when I say that. I don't be just saying that just to be talking shit. You in business like I'm in business. I said that shit because I mean that shit. Now you act like you don't believe and see what happened. Well, look, Mike, you don't have to go through all that. You're so aggressive with it. Well, hell, we wouldn't even have to worry about this conversation if you had to do what you were supposed to do. Now all of a sudden I'm supposed to be nice. Who you think you're playing with? Oh, okay. Now you don't have to do no business for me from that no more moving forward because you can't use me like you use everybody else. But right now we ain't gonna worry about that. Right now we're gonna take care of what we're here to take care of, and that's this situation right here. That's where your problem lies. Now, how you fixing to deal with it? Cause I'm telling you what I'm fixing to do. That's part of life, fellas. That do not make you big and bad. Only way you'll understand that situation if you are a supervisor somewhere or you actually run your own shit. You know how this shit works. You know. You know what it is to be in those type of positions and how sometimes people will play you. For those who ain't never been in that position, hey, that ain't a knock on you. But then even you understand you working for somebody. If you want to keep working with them, you got to make whoever that is ahead of you, the reason you there while you're there, you're going to have to do what you do and make them appreciate what you're doing in order to grow based on who you're trying to perform for. There's levels to that shit. But, to climb up that thing, it takes you to be just as hardworking and smarter and know your job. And then they have to appreciate you for you to succeed and climb that ladder. As a working man, you know that. That's how you make that's your life. You seem to appreciate things like that. Except this dog game, the same way. You don't see me dealing with pedigrees. You see me talking about people, the little stories. how this thing can go left real quick. It's still gonna be about the people that make up this dog game. Like the same people that made the dog game when we were coming into it. The Earl Tudors, the Floyd Boudreaux, the Lightners, the Burtons. I mean, the list goes on. Y'all know who I'm talking about. There's so many of them that I never want people to forget the ones that I know. The ones that opened their door and their arms and played a major part in what we did. A lot of the guys that y'all read about that we know, don't hate on that. That's nothing to be hating on. That's just something to be able to you're supposed to. I try to open that door up to say, hey, fellas, don't look on that as like we bragging. I would think that y'all would be trying to be in the game that you can have that opportunity to meet all these people of the new era. To where you don't have to be based on a conversation, just but your experience is just based off of what you know and who you know. Them things are important on anything that you do in life. That ain't nothing to be ashamed of or feel like or make you better than anybody. That if that don't do anything, you should respect yourself to know the only reason you're in a position to be like that because evidently it must be something about you. Why would you be hating on your damn self? Everybody else can hate on you, but you don't let that shit bother you. They need to be maybe more like you to be able to get the things out of life that you've been able to get being just because of who the hell you were. And you shouldn't be concerned about what the next man's doing anyway. Who give a damn about what he thinks? He don't run shit over here, so what he think don't matter any damn way. That's a bad thing to think like that, Mike. No, it ain't. Just take it for the truth and deal with it. It ain't shit else you're going to be able to do about it. You don't have to like it as long as you can turn the channel. As long as you can turn the volume down. As long as you can just walk away. That's a whole lot of damn options to be talking about what you don't like about a person. Because I know I would exercise every last right I got if I don't like something about you or don't like what you're doing. Or how you doing it. That is my objective. That is my right. I have the rights and the opportunity to deal with anything that I do not like. And that's okay because the next man has the same rights. I just think you guys need to pay a lot more attention to how you treat and run your business. That's all. Because shit that I see and the conversations I be hearing, I'm not a person that you should be afraid to talk to. I think it's fun when I see people come and, and do the shit that they do because that means we get a chance to be who we are. We can just be what we really are. Yeah, we like this one minute, but we can be just the same another minute and really don't care. They ain't trying to make us bigger and better than anybody. I'm just saying, hey, what if the community was like that again? Because back in my day, we was having them shouting matches, and them shouting matches the results of that came down to some 6 and 8 weeks in its own type of shit. And even in the end, you might not like what happened, but you still got to get that dap, get that love, and say good show, and think about the next time that you got to come, and hope you come the right way with something better because the day just wasn't your day. That's all. But it don't mean it's the end of the whole, it's the end. You can't win them all. But that's, the goal is to try to. So one defeat don't stop no show. It's okay to take a loss. It's okay to get a little mud in your face. Clean it up, wash it off, and go right back. S2W all day. So y'all help me out here. Give me some thumbs up. I need them damn thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up. For the people who donated and showed up and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for y'all tonight, I give you the muscles, 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 because it takes the strength and the dedication in your heart to just want to just reach out and say, here you go, twin. Here you go, twin. How can I not appreciate that? How can I not show that love? And because of that love, I want y'all to give me and yourself and the whole damn community some roses. Roses. We need them damn roses. Because that's where the appreciation comes from. It don't necessarily have to be money, fellas. It could be something as simple as hitting that button of roses and holding it down. Or hitting them thumbs up and holding it down. Or hitting that muscle sign and holding it down. Because that didn't cost you nothing but maybe 10, 15 seconds. But what you get out of it could be something that will carry you a lifetime. So yeah, I'm all about the appreciation. But I'm more about the appreciation for what you do. And don't never let what somebody else do deter you from being who you are. Because it matters. Shows character. Nothing wrong with being proud of your own work either. Because if you wasn't doing, if your work was shitty, they wouldn't be talking about it. The fact that they talking shit about it, hey, you know you got them worried. So that's when you know you're doing something right. Take advantage of the things you learn tonight. Take advantage of life in general, because this conversation can fit in many different points and times in your life. And if you're young, you might not experience a lot of these things because right now you might be a 9 to 5. You know, right now you might be one that's gotten your first breeding out the way, your first bulldog. You believe highly in your yard. But it's all right to believe highly in your yard, but remember, the more shit you talk, because you ain't proved shit. You just believe in your shit. All right? I give people that. It's okay to believe in your shit. But to get respect from others, your shit has to be appreciated based on the work and the results of that work. That's when you can appreciate not just your work for yourself, but you don't have to be talking about your appreciation. You let other people do that for you. He's got some good dogs. He's a good dude. He breeds up some good dogs. He's got fair pricing. No, you don't talk shit about it. He's really pretty quiet, but he's a good dude. That's, to me, how people show their appreciation for you, the person. That's what's important. So why wouldn't you appreciate your work and who you are and what you do? You're supposed to do that before anybody else does. That's what matters. Talking shit, talking bad about other people, talking down on other people, that means you don't have the ingredients to even understand half the shit that I said tonight. So I don't knock that. Because, again, you know, my father couldn't read. You know, imagine that. My dad couldn't read, but my dad taught me my trade. My dad made me read books and take tests, even for his company that I grew up in, because he couldn't read. He wasn't dumb. I told you my dad could take a wad of money and flip through it and do like this and know exactly how much is in that, how much money they just handed him without him counting. I said he couldn't read. I didn't say he couldn't count. But you couldn't hand my dad a contract. He wouldn't know how to read it. That's why I dealt with it. But he knew when it came down to be even having to deal with his contracts based on his handicap, he knew how to fix that. I got sons. In order for y'all to handle this part of my business, being you can read, the thing that you don't know, I'm gonna make sure you the baddest at it, and that is this shit right here that he knew. And he made me the best at what I did. And I made him even better because now you don't have to read the contract. I can do that for you because this is what I do. And it worked great. I never looked down on my dad because he couldn't read or write. My dad served his country. My dad lost hearing in one ear. My dad lost a lot of friends in Vietnam. And my dad had PTSD. But he was the hardest working man and the most, I ain't going to say he was all that fair because, he was a good man to people. But, my dad wasn't, he was a rolling stone. So I put it like that. You know what I'm saying? But that don't make him a bad person. That just makes him a bad husband. But he was a great businessman, you know. But I still loved him to death. Still always appreciate everything he done. So these things, I say these things, brother, because all this shit it's important in your lives. But the last thing you ever want to be is somebody that's talking shit about somebody else. Because that shit ain't never look good. That shit ain't never look good and will never look good. And this community will always be looked down upon as a piece of shit because of the people who create it. Because of the people that's in it. So if you don't like what it looked like, then be a part of fixing the problem instead of being a part of the problem why things are where they are. If you're trying to make change, be a part of the change moving forward than being one that ain't doing shit, talking shit about the people that's doing shit that's trying to make a move forward. See, my problem ain't never been what y'all trying to do is move forward. My problem is always talking shit and ain't doing nothing to make where you can see what it looks like to be moving forward. You see, then I'm somebody who deals with blueprints and buildings that ain't there yet. Understanding ain't nothing there, but by the time I'm done, there's going to be something standing there. I understand the importance and the detail and what it takes to make that happen. So, not everybody don't know what that sounds like, and a lot of people don't know what that means. But for the ones who sit there and think that you can talk shit like I don't know, that's where you're wrong at. Because I do know. That's why I go back and show you the things that they used to do in the past. What y'all doing ain't nothing new. Trust me when I tell you. I want to see y'all get to be bigger than what they were. Taiwan, 2,000 people and all that shit over there. Well, fellas, remember, I used to be in a time that where would be 100 and 200 people at a dog show, at a cookout. You know what I mean? At a pig picking. 1,500 people at a pig picking. I mean, 1,500 plus. And all we doing is just hanging around talking bulldog. That means that's all them people in the community for one moment enjoying themselves. To me, yeah, I've seen that. I was a part of that. That's big for me. That's always, for me, it's always hope there, fellas. That's all I'm saying. The hope is there. Now, it's what y'all do. We need a whole lot of people to stop hoping for change and start making change. Making change takes discussion and action. You discuss the plan, and then you put the plan into action. That sounds really easy, but it's not. And take it from me. I pay close attention to when I hear you talking but I don't see no action. And this ain't directed at nobody. This is just directed at y'all hear the conversations that I hear? Y'all see the conversations that I see? I'm only hanging out in places that we all seem to hang out in. I just the one who have a platform that can say what the fuck I want to say on it. There's a difference. It's not meant to make anybody mad, but again, I can always talk about what I see. If you don't like about anything about what I'm saying, then that only works for people who don't know no better. Like I said, what was the biggest thing that hurt Dougie? What was the biggest thing that hurt Pro? When it all really boiled down to it, really boiled down to it, you ain't on the level to even talk shit to us about anything. Being that you wanted to go there. I mean, and I hated Pro for that. That's the only reason we have this show, because I hated Pro for trying me like that. And that's just, I don't call that petty. I call that me saving my brother. Because I know his history. Pro knew his history. Pro didn't tell you a whole lot of shit. They knew each other in jail. There's a whole bunch of shit that didn't come out. But the disrespect part, I don't play that. So over here, we can come over here and say what you want to say. And you take it in further than that, it got even worse. But where it really hit its pinnacle is when you talk that shit and don't have nothing to stand on. That takes us back to the Pied Piper. I'll never forget how many of y'all followed the Pied Piper. Remember that. I never ever forgot that. And when I look at this community, I can truly tell you I know what the community looks like. Might be in my own opinion, but I'm entitled to that. But in the same token, I am also the same one who gives y'all the same opportunity that I know I have for myself. I don't have to like it. I don't have to listen to it. And I don't have to watch it when I can, at any point in time, go find something else to do. And that is true for me as it is for everybody else. Keep these things in mind. Take a look at it. Think about what we're saying. Mo will be back here Tuesday night. You know, I just wanted to come in, shoot some shit because it was Friday. I was already running late. I had just left him, and I know he's not going to make it. But it's something that I seen, and I just felt it was a need to talk about. Before anybody can appreciate anything that I've ever done in life, I had to have learned to appreciate it myself. Stop looking for it to come from somebody else. Because what happens for me, and it has always worked like that for me, I would do good work on a project, and that name start going on, and amazing what the word of mouth would do. Somebody just messed over. Call Mike. I know a guy. Call Mike. Call the twins. I mean, go ask Twin. See, them things have always followed us. Because that's what good work does. That's all I'm trying to put out there. You got to be able to live that life to understand it, to be able to reciprocate that to the next person. And today, I'm reciprocating that to my viewers, to my Shark Tank, to my Backstreet people, to my audience. This Bulldog game didn't get to where it had gotten all these years, like the man said. I'm not the only one that feels like other countries doing what they was doing. Well, back in my time, we was doing it just like that too. Remember, they was talking about 10 years and $25,000 fine. Now look at it. It's a Fed case. So for us, we know already. But did we shy away from the risk? No. Yeah, we might have been jealous what other countries were able to do. But because we couldn't, doesn't mean we were deterred from it. And that's just the way the game is. It's just a matter, do you have what it takes to actually be in this game? Only time will be able to tell. Your success is always going to be based on your work anyway. So for some of y'all, all I'm saying is, let's see how much you put into appreciating your work and be able to see it all the way through. And then you will make it'll be a lot easier for you to understand why everybody else appreciate whatever it is that you're doing. So until Tuesday night, y'all need to keep me in your thoughts and your prayers. Big shout out. Mo is down again. I don't want to get into what's going on because I really don't know what's going on until after they do whatever they're gonna do. You know, but he ain't never let me down. He have his bad moments, but I just feel in my heart. I'd stick with him and ride it out with him. You don't have to be here. I got this. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I got you. You just basically give me the floor to come in and say what the hell I got on my mind. So I don't need to go in. He do pedigrees and shit. I do life. I do the business side. And everything I'm talking about tonight has to do with the person. The man responsible for everything, who called the shots, who responsible for the family, the dogs, and everything else that goes with this whole situation that we call the American Pit Bull community. And one thing that I'm going to always stand on is not just being right, but then be that one that's always, and I mean always, no matter what the situation is, give a damn. We all fall, but we all know how to get back up because we always scratch the win. You know what I mean? Scratch the win, baby. Find it in your heart. Live by it and be true by it. You're going to love the results in the end. And I bet you. So let me get my music started right quick. Hey, wait a minute. I don't know. Did I say the thumbs up and everything? My sound still working? I can't tell by my phone. I can't really get to people because my phone, it only goes so far without me resetting it. So hold on one second. Let me get over here. Here we go. Let me see. Oh my gosh. There's so much that I missed over here, fellas. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me get this going here. I ain't getting a chance to watch the game. I'm checking out some of y'all comments. Appreciate everybody for showing up, showing out. Let's see. Get this going here. I know somebody said Indiana losing. Indiana beat New York. Hey, look. For all my New York fans, you know what I mean? Indiana come back and win. I mean, I'm not a New York fan, but if they mess around and blow this to where we get on a game 7 and they lose, do you know how many people is gonna be upset? Because it's been a long time. New York, New York is like the Mecca. It's like LA. I mean, actually, it's worse than LA because LA they still be winning them championships, but New York. Remember, Daddy, he was a New York Knickerbocker fan. Nick Barnett, Walt Frazier. Let's see, it was Walt Frazier, Nick Barnett. There was a couple more. I used to remember everybody on the team, but them was the days for them boys. And even then, fellas, I remember even then, Earl of Pearl Monroe, I don't know if he was there or was it Milwaukee. I know Oscar Robinson was with Milwaukee. But I know I was around and I don't even remember when they had Patrick Ewing and them. I don't ever remember New York winning. So it's been a long time since they even been in the position to even be in the, you know, the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, I think the last time they might have been there might have been against Jordan and them, and damn, that's a long time. And I don't ever remember them knocking Jordan them out. And I thought that was the big thing back then. You know, you had to take down. First it was Detroit, then right after Detroit, you had to take down Chicago. New York was always there. Indiana and Reggie Miller and them was always there, but it never kind of happened. See, them kind of things, it's like, oh man, that shit goes on for years and years and years. Almost like my wife, bless her heart, riding out with these Minnesota Vikings after all these damn years. My wife just turned 47 years old, and I just think all the football seasons that she has been disappointed, how many times and close they have become. But yes, she's a diehard Minnesota Viking fan. Well, shout out to all my diehard New York Knicks fans. Don't worry about it. It's not the first time this has ever happened to you. All you got to do is just pick it up, and wait for the next season. That's all. That's just it's all about the game, baby. But again, like I said, man, who am I to say? I'm biased. I'm LeBron regardless of where he go. You know what I'm saying? So that ain't about the team. It's about the player for me. I'm always representing hometown. So until then, man, y'all stay safe. Big shout out to everybody who watched the show tonight. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And big shout out to everybody who was checking in, showing the love with the donations and checking on us. Because, when we don't be here on time, we don't put nothing people struggle to calling. I just didn't want to get everybody all, into what we've been dealing with. Yeah, but Mo is down again. He is down. But that don't mean the show stops. We will have an update. I got the weekend to get by. And then, if God permits, we'll talk about it Tuesday. But until then, y'all stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Hold on. Come on. Move around. Do something. Man, I think I've got my music going. Hold on. I got to get this mouse to move. My mouse stopped moving. Do it. How do I do this? Oh, I know how to do this. Hold on, brothers. This is what I'm going to do. It looks like my system done slowed down on me. But you know what? I'm going to do it like this. This time I'm going to close it out tonight. I didn't want to get my dog in tonight, but I had an article in here. This is my dog in tonight. Y'all don't know nothing about this. It's Kenny Allen's dog. But you know what? Read the story. This is another one of the great dogs of Kenny Allen. Little dog, y'all, but a great story. Until Tuesday, y'all stay safe, stay out of trouble, and I'll see you here tonight. Dog of the night is Kenny Allen's Champion Butch. And out.